A black woman took in 4 homeless children. 20 years later, they stopped her life sentence. Guilty on all counts. The gavel struck like thunder inside Delilah Peterson's chest. She gripped the edge of the defense table, her 68-year-old knuckles turning white. Mrs. Peterson, this court sentences you to life in prison without parole. Judge Arthur Harrison's voice was steady, cold, almost mechanical. To her left, Prosecutor Riley Grant closed his folder with the precision of a man who already knew the ending. Behind her, Mrs. Patterson, Delilah's neighbor, sobbed, her cries mixing with the whispering storm rippling through the courtroom. The evidence against Delilah lay displayed like goods in a glass case. Fingerprints on the weapon, suspicious transfers into her account, surveillance showing her near the crime scene. Too neat, too perfect. A bailiff stepped forward with handcuffs. Delilah's mind shot back 20 years. The rainy night 4 trembling boys knocked on her door, the smell of hot cocoa and the promise she whispered, "No one will touch you as long as you're under my roof." "Wait!" A deep male voice rang out from the back, cutting through the shuffle of chairs and the sighs of resignation. Heads turned as 4 men strode down the aisle, the first in a charcoal suit, posture sharp, eyes like blades. The second with graying hair, but a warmth in his gaze. The third, youngest, calm with the air of an engineer used to systems and precision. The last in a dark blazer, press badge swinging on his chest, carrying rolled-up blueprints and a poster tube. The leader stopped. "Your Honor, I am Daniel Reed, civil rights attorney. This is Dr. Michael Cole, surgeon at Northwestern Memorial, Timothy Shaw, CEO of Nexus Dynamics, and Ethan Brooks, investigative journalist, founder of Fairwatch." He drew a breath. "We are Mrs. Peterson's 4 sons. We have suppressed evidence proving she was framed, and witnesses once threatened are ready to testify." Prosecutor Grant shot up. "Objection. The verdict is final." "Give us 10 minutes," Daniel cut in firmly. "Enough to prove the digital chain of evidence was tampered with, and that the so-called victim was misidentified, a man we believe actually died years ago." Judge Harrison leaned forward, his eyes lingering on the 4 men, then back at Delilah. A murderer on paper, yet a mother who had raised a lawyer, a doctor, a tech CEO, and a journalist. He struck his gavel. "The court will stay the execution of sentence. 10 minutes granted." Timothy Shaw plugged a USB into the courtroom screen. Metadata appeared, timestamps off by 37 milliseconds between frames, 8,423 to 8,431. Hash strings failing to align. Video evidence clean to the point of forgery. He pointed to splices and algorithmic pinholes. Dr. Michael Cole laid down a folder. The left versus right knee surgery scars on Eddie Costanos in last week's broadcast do not match the right knee injury of the man claiming to be Eddie at Pier 15 years ago. Ethan Brooks raised a FOIA envelope. Dental records, conflict, and money trails from charities into shell companies surfaced right before the accident. "You're saying the victim wasn't Eddie Costanos?" the judge asked. Daniel looked straight into the courtroom camera. "Your Honor, the real Eddie died long ago. An imposter, Marcus Webb, known as the surgeon, wore his identity for 20 years and staged this death to destroy my mother's final years." Gasps rippled across the room. From the far corner behind a marble column, Delilah glimpsed a shadowed figure. Her spine went cold. The face belonged to the past, to a night that should have been buried. She closed her eyes, steadying herself. "Don't shake. My sons are here. The light has returned." The gavel cracked again. "This court suspends execution of sentence. An evidentiary review will reconvene at 2 p.m. today. Judicial police, protect the defendant and the presenting parties. The handcuffs froze mid-air. Delilah sagged, then saw them. Daniel, Michael, Timothy, Ethan, closing in. Mama D, just 2 words. The ice around her heart shattered. Yet the warmth pulled back old smells of mildew, rain, a knock at 2:47 a.m., hot cocoa, a torn envelope of $25,000. And Pier, 15 years ago, the night a stray bullet ripped across her chest. Memory, cornered like a beast, roared awake. 20 years it had never slept. "Your Honor," Daniel said at last, voice low but resonant. "This all began on a rainy night 20 years ago." 2:47 a.m. The pounding on the door was like the fist of a storm. Delilah jolted out of bed, her heart racing in rhythm with the rain. Through the peephole she saw 4 boys: Danny, around 12, Mike, 10, Tim, 9, Ethan, 8. Their faces were pale, hair-drenched, sleeves torn at the elbows, a fresh scratch on Danny's cheek still bleeding. "Come in, boys. Another minute out there and you'll catch pneumonia." She opened the door. The smell of rain mixed with steaming milk. On the gas stove, cocoa simmered in a small pot. They sat around the wooden table, tiny hands wrapped around mugs, shyly murmuring, "Thank you." Ethan, the youngest, whispered, "Ma'am, are you calling the police?" Mike shook his head frantically, eyes glistening. "They won't believe us." Tim darted glances around the house, memorizing everything. Windows, locks, the wall phone cord. Danny, the eldest, spoke like a grown man. "We don't have a home anymore." They told their story in broken fragments. Their parents had died in an accident 2 years earlier. Eddie Costanos, a distant relative, took them in legally. At Eddie's house, his friends came and went. The boys worked for food. Work that no 12-year-old should ever know. Danny had planned their escape for months, waiting for a night when the men were distracted in a deal. "Could we just stay here for one night? Tomorrow we'll go." Delilah looked at them, thin but polite. Eyes aged too early, yet burning with hope. Eyes she knew from her own childhood. She nodded. "No one touches you under this roof." One sentence, and the boys exhaled as if breaking the surface of water. On the 4th morning, a tall, gaunt man in a tailored suit stepped through the door, Eddie Costanos. 2 guards flanked him like stage props. The faint scent of cigars and expensive cologne clung to him, carried in with the rain. "Mrs. Peterson, I've come to reclaim my property." He laid a folder on the table. Guardianship papers, court orders, medical files, all valid. Then he pulled out a brown envelope. $25,000. They're not yours. Delilah heard the tick of the clock, each minute hand cutting an inner line. 25,000 meant paying down her late husband's hospital bills, keeping the house from foreclosure, a real computer for Tim. She smelled the mold of long poverty, heard the hiss of compromise. Then she lifted her eyes, the boys huddled in the hallway, hardly daring to breathe. In Danny's gaze, she saw him bracing for betrayal, the lesson life had already taught him. She took the envelope, then tore it in half. "Get out of my house, Mr. Costanos, and don't come back." Eddie's face didn't change, but his eyes thinned like cracking ice. "Very brave, Mrs. Peterson, very unwise. I always take back what is mine." He turned. At the doorway, Danny stood tall, hands trembling but eyes bright, with a faith just rescued from the edge. 5 years of warped peace followed. By day, Delilah cleaned schools. By night, she studied for her degree. Danny, now 17, received a thick scholarship packet from Northwestern. Mike, 15, volunteered at a free clinic. His hand surprisingly skilled. Tim, 14, built a computer out of scrap electronics, learning code from old manuals. Ethan, 13, wrote for the church bulletin, snapping license plates of unfamiliar cars, quietly building a witness log. Then the phone rang. Eddie's voice, smooth as velvet over steel. "I've been patient long enough." Strange, isn't it? A janitor who pays tuition, buys a used car, buys computers. The police will surely be curious. He threw his ace. Danny's trust fund has already hit $500,000, and I am the legal guardian. If he gets estranged, there will be questions about those withdrawals. A black sedan parked across the street, staring like an unblinking eye. Another rainy afternoon, the phone rang again. This time, a young woman's voice. "My name is Sarah Chen. My brother, Michael Chen, he's 11. He escaped Eddie 2 weeks ago." Eddie caught him again. "He says he'll trade Michael for your Mike, 1 for 1. Midnight, Pier 47. If not..." Her voice broke. Michael Cole's fists clenched white. He hissed through his teeth, "We're going." Delilah shook her head. "No." Danny slammed the table. "If we don't, the boy dies." Tim murmured, "We can't call the cops." The guardianship papers are still in his hands. Ethan opened his notebook. "I'll tip off an independent reporter, from a distance, with a camera. At least we'll have light." Pier 47. Midnight. Rain strung the air like wire. The 4 boys and Delilah stood together before the rusted maze of containers. Eddie appeared, slicked back hair, dark trench coat, 2 shadows flanking him. In front of him, a trembling boy, Michael Chen, the same name as Mike Cole, wrenching the would-be doctor's heart. "They've grown too much," Eddie said, his smile razor-thin. "Time to come home." "Home is here," Danny answered, standing firm. "Home is where the papers say it is." Eddie narrowed his eyes. Negotiations collapsed. One thug drew a gun. From the dark, Sarah Chen lunged with a crowbar, smashing his wrist. The gun clattered away with a shot. Chaos flooded in. Danny tackled Eddie, both crashing on wet ground. Eddie twisted like a cat, knife flashing at Danny's throat. "Stop!" Mike grabbed the gun, standing tall, steady hands. "You're a doctor. You won't pull the trigger," Eddie sneered. Crack. Mike didn't kill. He shot Eddie's right knee. Eddie buckled, the knife clattering down. At the pier's edge, Delilah wrestled the second thug. Both slid toward the barrier. Tim hurled his old laptop into the thug's face, buying a heartbeat. Danny snatched the knife, stabbed the man's shoulder, dragging his mother back to safety. They thought it was over. Then Eddie pulled a backup gun from his ankle holster. "If I can't have them, no one will." He raised it. Delilah moved like only a mother could, throwing her body in front. The bullet struck. She collapsed, 4 boys' eyes exploding with panic. Mike fired again, hitting Eddie's other knee. He crumpled, gun skidding away. Sarah dragged Michael Chen behind a container. Sirens wailed closer. Delilah gripped Danny's hand, ragged breath tearing through. "Run, all of you. Don't let them catch you." She pulled 4 envelopes from her coat, written the night before. Addresses of lawyers willing to help, lists of teachers who owed her favors, scraps of info on Danny's trust fund, and one identical line. "Even if darkness calls your name, don't become the monster." She smiled, thin and warm, like an old wool blanket. The ambulance doors shut. On the pier, the story was told by those holding the microphones. A dangerous woman kidnapped children, attacked their legal guardian. The press swallowed it whole. The police stamped it closed. Delilah went to prison. And the 4 boys? They vanished into the rain of the city. Danny embraced the law, Mike embraced medicine, Tim embraced code and digital evidence, Ethan embraced the light of the press. They made a vow, not in words, but in the burn scar across their hearts. They would come back for their mother, but only when strong enough to save her without killing. And somewhere along the lakeshore, someone was already waiting for that vow, to spring the perfect trap 20 years later. 15 years had passed since that stormy night at Pier 47. The 4 boys had grown into 4 men walking different paths, but each carried the same core forged in Delilah's small kitchen. Never betray the kindness that saved you. Danny Reed, was battle-worn in civil rights cases, accustomed to the sweat of mediation rooms and the glare of media lights. With every appeal file, he whispered one of Delilah's lines. Justice doesn't come on its own. You have to drag it toward the light. Dr. Mike Cole had become a trauma surgeon, hands keeping people alive through hours-long operations. No decision is worth making if it costs an innocent life, he told residents as if reminding himself. Tim Shaw, founder of Nexus Dynamics, spent years digging into data integrity, the shield he believed could defend against false narratives. He was obsessed with digital traces, hashes, timestamps, logs, obsessed with how truth could be bent by milliseconds. Ethan Brooks built Fairwatch, a community journalism network, a nervous system of independent writers, volunteer lawyers, librarians, and cameramen. A sign hung in his small office. Whoever holds the mic holds the story. Give the mic to those who have none. One winter morning, each of them received the same letter stamped from Cook County. Delilah's shaky handwriting. Tomorrow marks 15 years since Pier 47. The man calling himself Eddie may be released early. I fear he's not done with you. Don't let the darkness break your hearts. Danny stared at the line, his hand trembling. He dialed a number older than the scar on his wrist. On the other end, Mike froze. It's really you. 2 seconds of silence stretched an ocean wide. Let's meet, a diner halfway. They settled on a Kansas City diner, neutral, muffled. The 4 sat around a scratched plastic table under flickering neon. Ethan placed down a FOI response, dental charts of Eddie from recent years versus old records before Pier. Anchor points don't match, Mike added flatly. The surgical scar the press showed last week was on the left knee. That night at Pier, I shot his right. Tim opened his laptop. On the screen, hash graphs and timestamps from prosecution-submitted camera clips. Frames 8,423 to 8,431, lag 37 milliseconds. Splice points. Mike's phone buzzed with a long-set Google alert. Body found in warehouse district identified as Edward Kostanos, 68, suspected homicide. Orchestrated from prison, Delilah Peterson, the air thickened. Son of a bitch, Danny growled. Either he's truly dead and they're pinning it on Mom, or Eddie's been dead for years, and the imposter is staging another death to seal her coffin. Ethan, calmer than the rest, as if he'd waited for this. Whatever the case, we need to wrench the story out of their hands. He slid Danny a list. 3 independent outlets, 2 civil rights attorneys, 1 group of librarians obsessed with microfilm. Fairwatch is ready, but for this to last, we need Tim's digital weapons and your legal shield. First, we go to court, Danny said. If we win a stay of execution, we buy time to unlock everything. And they did. As told in Part 1, 10 minutes before Judge Harrison, 3 files and a USB shattered coincidences too clean. The cuffs froze mid-air. At 2 p.m., the court convened an evidentiary review. The 4 scattered to prepare. That very noon, Danny's phone buzzed with an encrypted email signed by an unfamiliar key. Tim glanced once. Modified military grade. The message was short. Your mother has 48 hours. Meet where it all began. Only you. Old friend. Danny read it aloud. Mike set a hand on his shoulder. Don't bring a gun. Ever. Tim nodded. Bring data, Ethan exhaled. Bring the public. Night. Pier 47 again. Wind off the lake whistled through containers, carrying back the scent of that old rain. The four stood in diamond formation. Danny at the tip, Mike to the left with his medic bag, Tim to the right with a transmitter the size of a phone. Ethan at the rear, a lapel mic clipped to his jacket. Body cams rigged by Tim streamed live to a worm vault. Write once, read many. Leased independently by Nexus. Written once, no one edits. From the shadows, a man emerged. Tall, gaunt, hands long and steady to the point of menace. Marcus Webb, the surgeon. He spoke like lecturing. Eddie was an amateur. He indulged, wasted. I cut him out, wore his name for 20 years, shaped the ecosystem so tonight you'd walk here on your own. I fed you opportunities. Northwestern had sponsors. Nexus had lucky investors. Reed had witnesses suddenly brave. I didn't kill you because I wanted to prove unconditional love is only a tale. Tonight it will shatter before your mother's eyes. You're live, Ethan said, voice low but carrying through the mic. 3 outlets, 1 public vault, you can't erase it. Tim pressed a switch. Floodlights around the pier flickered, glitching. Marcus had seeded malware in auxiliary circuits, making beams stutter to reveal his gunmen above. Sirens swelled, not 1 car, but many. Detective Ray Kowalski had Ethan's oxygen of public pressure. If cops arrived late, the whole city would see. Marcus paused a beat, then smiled. Pretty, but not enough. He tilted his head, signaling into the dark, just before SWAT stormed in. Commands barked. Marcus was cuffed. He leaned toward the camera. If I fall, contingency takes shape. Your mother will die believing you betrayed what she taught. Never kill. His words dropped into the pier like a stone. At dawn, in a police precinct lounge, Danny's phone rang again. A distorted voice. Mrs. Delilah Peterson is in a building rigged with enough explosives to erase a block. If Marcus lives past sunrise, it blows. If you call more cops, it blows. If 3 of you leave the country in 24 hours, it blows. Prove she's alive? Mike snarled. Silence. Then a voice, raw and unmistakable. Danny, it's Mom. Don't kill anyone for me. Please. Delilah, beep, beep. The line cut. The room froze. 2 doors, Danny rasped. 1, kill Marcus to save her, and kill our souls. 2, stay clean, and let them detonate. There's a 3rd door, Ethan said, locking eyes with each. It's called Light. Find the command hub, disable the trigger, and rip the story from their hands. Tim closed his eyes, replaying the call. Beneath the distorted voice, a steady, heavy mechanical hum. Not a generator. He searched his sound library, self-trained, pressroom.wav. Industrial printer. Danny shot up. Cook County Records and Printing, the place that churns out legal docs, court papers, writs. That's where the printers are. That's where forged files could flow, and where the infrastructure is vulnerable. Ethan texted a librarian in his network. The reply came quick. Floor plans, guard shifts, machine room coordinates. Mike tightened the strap of his medic bag. No reinforcements. Any wrong move, they blow it. Danny straightened his tie. Then let's work. And the 3rd door opened, from a clue as small as a background noise in a phone call. 5:07 a.m. The Chicago sky was still black as stone. Cook County records and printing loomed gray and windowless, like a vertical vault. The four men split to approach from three directions, linked by encrypted radios Tim had cobbled together from civilian parts. One main channel. Two backups. "Right side clear," Tim whispered. "Two guards in the shack, asleep. Their IP cameras are streaming a perfect loop back to HQ. I swapped in pre-recorded feeds." "Two guys smoking out front," Ethan reported. "Fairwatch has people staged around as commuters filming B-roll. Nobody touching the red zone. If there's an explosion, the whole city will know who was on duty." Mike checked his tourniquet and morphine. Danny slipped a folder of legal motions into his vest pocket. If things went bad, but there was still room to negotiate, he'd invoke duress and stall. As Danny placed a hand on the main door latch, a female voice rose from the dark. "Hello, Daniel." He spun. Sarah Chen stepped out, pistol raised, safety off. She was no longer the 19-year-old girl with a crowbar. Her eyes were steel. "Sarah, don't. We're trying to save my mother and everyone else." "And my brother?" Sarah's lips trembled, but the barrel did not. "An 11-year-old named Michael, dead 3 blocks from Pier that night from internal injuries. He died calling your names. And you? You vanished into the dark." Danny felt punched in the chest. The image of Michael Chen trembling before Eddie's gun flared like fire. "Sarah, we did everything you could?" Her mouth twisted. "I did everything I could for 20 years. I burrowed into Eddie's system, learned his methods. When he died, I walked beside Marcus Webb. He thought he was using me. Wrong. I was using him. Everything leads to tonight. The contingency plan is you." Danny realized it wasn't a question. "Yes. If you don't kill Marcus, your mother dies, and you live hating yourselves. If you do kill Marcus, you break what she taught you, and you live hating yourselves. 2 doors, both dark. There's a third door." "There isn't." Danny drew a long breath. "Sarah, your brother believed in heroes. Are you sure you want to become the one who buries that belief again?" Her gun wavered a fraction. "Daniel, go in." "Fail. I wired a dead man switch into the system. One hand slips, everything blows. And don't call in more cops. I've got eyes in dispatch." She stepped back, clearing the way. "Go. Save your mother, if you can." Danny glanced at his earpiece. "We're inside. Echo plan." "Copy," Tim said. "I'm entering north. Mike, take the stairwell. Ethan, keep public pressure. Don't let anyone black out the story." The main corridor reeked of ink and fresh paper. Tim swept with a spectrum analyzer. Multiple radio bands alive. "At least 6 comms on the 3rd floor?" Mike murmured. "Could be the detonation monitors." Danny veered left, reading the sign. "Basement. Mechanical/vault. If there are bombs, they're below. I'm going down." "No," Mike blocked him. "I go with you." "Mike, you're the only one who can keep people alive if they play dirty upstairs. Stay on 2. I'll check below and report." A pause. "Be careful," Mike said, like telling a patient before surgery. Danny pushed through a steel door. The basement stank of damp and metal. The hallway opened into a wide room. In its center sat Delilah, tied to a chair, surrounded by bricks of C4 wired into a switch box pulsing a red light. A young man, maybe 24, stood guard, gun in hand, but his eyes unwilling. "Hello, son," Delilah spoke first. "What's your name?" He faltered. "Jordan?" "Jordan. You have a little sister?" "Yes, she's 8. "I thought so." Delilah smiled, warm as an old quilt. "What does she think of you?" That I'm a good man. Then be one, Jordan. Good men don't press the